Hello and welcome to a new vlog and trip report. Today we're taking a look at the Ruhr-Sieg Railway. We are going from Siegen to Hagen, and here on the map you can see our route today. And we are also taking a closer look at our route in the animation, and we have a lot of stops in between once again. We're starting at Siegen main station, and then we have stops in Siegen Weidenau, Siegen Geisweid, Kreuztal, Kreuztal Eichen, Kreuztal Littfeld, Welschen Ennest, Kirchhundem, Lennestadt Altenhundem, Lennestadt Meggen, Lennestadt Grevenbrück, Finnentrop, Plettenberg, Verdol, Altena, Iserlohn Lettmate, Hohenlimburg, and then we're finally reaching Hagen. I had a bit of different plans. I wanted to change trains in Lennestadt Altenhundem, but due to a lot of problems with this journey today, I changed my plan and we're traveling the whole length of the line with the RB91. We're starting at Siegen main station, and here the problems already started, and I had a very long unplanned waiting time here, and now we can take a look at the arrival of my train. So my train today is a Flirt 1, currently operated by VIAS, used to belong to Abellio, but after they went bankrupt the train was taken over by VIAS. So let's talk a bit about my problems. When I arrived with the RE99 from Sechshelden, where my last video ended, I wanted to take the RB91 at 3:40 PM. Due to a slight delay, I could have maybe been able to reach the RE34 going directly to Dortmund, which is my final destination, supposed to leave 5 minutes before my arrival, but it was a little bit delayed. But unfortunately it departed the second that my train pulled in at the same platform just on the opposite track. So it should have been possible for this train to wait, but it departed without waiting, and already then I knew that the train at 3:40 was delayed on its inward journey by around 90 minutes. So in the end my train did not depart at 3:40 but at 4:55 PM, so still 1 hour and 15 minutes late, and the next train that was supposed to leave at 4:40 was only delayed by around 20 minutes, so it left at 5 PM, just 5 minutes after my train. So there were two trains the same direction running directly behind each other. So I was wondering why they are not getting coupled together instead of having two trains running directly behind each other, because the problem and the reason for those huge delays was a planned construction in combination with an overhead wiring failure, which led to a 10 kilometers long single track stretch on this railway line, which of course was a huge problem as it's a quite highly frequented railway line. So a 10-kilometer unplanned single track section of course causes a lot of delays. But eventually we managed to get through this part. Here we are in the construction part where we have to go with a reduced speed, which is already planned, but still also adding up to the delay and of course not helping with catching up with the delay. But of course this can happen as it is a quite old railway line. The Ruhr-Sieg Railway was already built from 1858 to 1861 with a lot of bridges and tunnels. I think it was a masterpiece to construct such a railway line at this time, and still today it is a very spectacular railway line due to the bridges and the tunnels and the beautiful scenery. We're following several rivers. In the beginning we're following the river Sieg, then we're following the Olpe and the Lenne until we're then reaching Hagen, close to the river Ruhr. And then eventually there was an announcement made that I was already expecting, informing us that the train that I'm on is not continuing on to Hagen but instead ending in Plettenberg and then returning to Siegen back at its original schedule, and all passengers were requested to leave the train in Plettenberg and take the other train just 5 minutes behind us. Luckily it was announced quite early, so I could already leave the train one station earlier, and here in Finnentrop we can take a look at the arrival of my next train. And my spontaneous plan worked out perfectly fine, because as expected the train was pretty empty, and we can take a better look at the interior of this train. And now we can also finally listen to the sound of the train. So those Stadler Flirts are quite old. They are belonging to the first Stadler Flirts in Germany. The very first ones were some trains from Switzerland operating in Germany, and then the first orders in Germany were by Cantus and by Abellio. That's also why they have these seats that do not look very comfortable, but they are better than they look, although they do not have any other features like power sockets or tables. But those are the seats also used in the Swiss trains. So I think at the moment the trains were ordered, those were the only options. Of course, nowadays the Stadler Flirt is one of the most common trains in Germany with a lot of different seat types. But back then, I guess this was just the only option. As I've mentioned, after Abellio went bankrupt, the trains were shortly taken over by Deutsche Bahn and are now operated by VIAS. Whilst my original plan was to change trains at Lennestadt-Altenhundem to take another train of the line RE34 to Dortmund, due to the delays, I decided to stay on this train until Hagen. Here we are approaching Plettenberg, and as you can see, the train is now crowded again, because now all the other passengers changed the train, but I got my very nice seat and a very empty train, at least for a very short moment. So the reason why I wanted to change trains at Lennestadt-Altenhundem was that the trains of the line RE34 were only operating between Lennestadt-Altenhundem and Dortmund instead of Siegen and Dortmund due to those constructions, and a train that left just seconds before I could reach it in Siegen was one of the few trains of the line RE34 going all the way from Siegen to Dortmund, because usually the RE34 is operated by these trains you can see here, but there are a handful of trains also operated by the HLB Hessische Landesbahn, and those trains are going on the full length of the line from Siegen to Dortmund, also during this time of constructions. On this railway line there are just a handful of connections. Directly in Siegen, of course, you have a connection on to Gießen and Frankfurt. From Kreuztal you can continue on to Erntebruck, and further on usually to Bad Berleburg and also to Marburg. And from Finnentrop, where I changed trains, there's a connection to Olpe. And also in Iserlohn-Letmathe there's a connection to Iserlohn. Here we have just seen two yellow locomotives with the numbers 547 and 543, and we will see them later on in the video once again. But for us it's now time to head to Hagen main station, and there I wanted to change trains to Dortmund, which is my final destination today. And usually there should have been a transfer time of around 10-15 minutes, but as always when one thing is going wrong, usually there are more things going wrong, and so there was a problem on the railway line between Schwelm and Hagen, and the RRX got more and more delayed. Instead of 10 minutes it was now already more than 30 minutes of waiting time, so I could watch my train leave. Finally, the delay of the RRX got so big that I took the S-Bahn instead, but of course there were more problems. Also, the S-Bahn didn't leave Hagen on time as there was a fire at Hagen Vorhalle, but luckily this only took a couple of minutes until we were finally allowed to leave Hagen and continue on in the direction of Dortmund. And here we can see a freight train, and if we take a look at the locomotives, we can see those yellow locomotives 547 and 543, and even this freight train managed to overtake me, partly of course because they didn't have to go to Hagen and change directions there, but mainly because of the huge delays. But finally, around 8:30 in the evening, 2.5 hours later than planned, I made it to Dortmund, and a quite long and exhausting but still quite nice train ride is coming to an end. And here in Dortmund I stayed at a Hotel Esplanade, a privately owned hotel which is very nice. It has some very nice mining themed rooms which I really liked. And from here we will start in the next video with a very special train ride when we take the IC1 on one of its last scheduled services, which was also the main reason for all of this traveling I did today, starting with the Taunus Railway, continuing on with the Mireo of the HLB and the Heller Valley Railway line, and until Siegen everything was perfectly on time. Just this last part, the Ruhr-Sieg Railway, was causing a lot of problems, but still it was a nice journey today on a very beautiful railway line. Here you can see when the next video will be uploaded and the name of the song as always. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to comment, like or share the video link, and if you want to see more travel videos, make sure to subscribe, and I hope to see you in my next video then.